everyone. The first thing we're going to do to get ready to write the second exam is go over the exam assignment. Seems like a good place to start, doesn't it? Okay, so this is going to be a very informal video, and we're just going to go through the exam sheet itself and talk about the instructions and some possible approaches to how you can answer the questions. Now, I'm just going to make some suggestions as to approaches you can use, more or less in case you don't already have a good idea as to what you want to write on. But just because an approach that occurs to you isn't one that I mentioned doesn't mean it's not a good approach and that you can't use it. You guys come up with great ideas. But I always feel a little bad about tossing an exam out and not at least going over some possible ways that people can approach answering it, just to kind of get you started. If you have any questions about an approach that you'd like to take to the exam question, you know you can email me. And of course, you know that you will email me from an account other than Canvas. How many times have you heard that this semester? And you also know that you email me at deborah.okie@csn.edu, right? Okay, so let's get started on this. Now, as the exam assignment sheet states, you're going to use readings from at least two of the works that we read in the second half of the semester. Okay, so that's the stuff that we read after Medea, not anything before then. And you're going to pick one of the questions that are on the exam page here, and you're going to write a 3 to 5 page paper in MLA style. You have to have 3 pages of text plus the works cited page. The works cited page doesn't count as a page of text. So no, you can't turn in an exam that has only 2 pages of text plus the works cited page. No, 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 no. You won't pass if you do that. Now, the exam can be up to 5 pages long plus the works cited page. So in other words, you can write as much as 5 full pages and even a little bit on a 6th page, and then add the works cited page and still be within the set length requirement. Okay? You clear on that? If you're not, you know you can email me, right? Okay. Let's see. And then, of course, you're going to include in-text MLA citations for all information that's summarized, paraphrased, and quoted, not just direct quotes. Now, that's very important. I'm not really sure why it happens, but it seems like over the years, I get so many students who want to use in-text citations for only direct quotes. That's not all you have to cite. You have to cite the ideas you take from other people, not just the wording. Okay? So anything that you take from the literary works themselves or from any of the presentations, in other words, the videos, you have to cite a source for that. Okay? And I know what the sources have said because after all, I made the videos. And obviously, I know what's in the works themselves. I mean, I read them every semester, so I'm pretty familiar with them. I know when you're going to need a citation. Okay? Now, yeah, you can accidentally leave out a citation or two, and I won't even count off for that. But if you don't use citations for summaries and paraphrases, as well as direct quotes, you can't earn above 50% on this exam. Now, I gave people a little bit of a break in the first exam, but by the time that you write this exam, we will have gone over the video on how to do in-text citations twice in this course. Plus, you should have learned it in English 101. And if you take an English 102, you definitely should have learned it there. But even if you haven't taken 102 yet, that's 3 times that you should have been taught how to use in-text citations. And anybody who studies anything 3 times should know how to do it. So, yeah, I expect to see the citations more or less used correctly. Now, I don't take off for the citation formats in this class because it's not a writing class. If you were taking English 100 from me, oh yeah, I'd take off for the formats, but not in a lit class. But it's very important, because I'm an English professor, that I know that you know where citations are needed. Because there are some profs in some disciplines at some universities who will fail you for an entire course for leaving out one citation. Yeah, I think that's nitpicky and completely unnecessary, but profs at universities don't ask me what I think. And I would feel really bad if a student who took an English class from me ever got a bad grade on a paper or failed a course because they didn't know that they needed to include a citation someplace. Even if this isn't a writing class, I still feel like it's important that I include that information in teaching it. So, yeah, I want to see those citations in the right places in most cases. Okay? Okay. Oh, and of course, as the first paragraph ends, you also have to include the works cited page. But again, I've included the master works cited page for Unit 2. So all you have to do is copy and paste the citations from that master works cited page onto your own works cited page. And yeah, again, if there's anything wrong with those citations, I don't expect you to correct them because it's my mistake, not yours, and I'm not going to hold you responsible for my mistakes. I mean, if I don't know how to do a works cited entry after all these years I've been doing them, how can I possibly expect you to? Okay, for the next paragraph. Now, you're going to choose one question, and you're going to use specific passages from the works to support whatever you say in your response. And whenever it's appropriate, and I'll know when it's appropriate because after all, I made the videos, right? Use information from the videos, in other words, the presentations, and the sources that I use in them. Now, MLA style means that your paper should be in 12-point Times or Times New Roman font. And you're going to be formatting it and documenting it according to MLA guidelines. And I'm providing copies to the videos that we went over for Exam 1 on this assignment list too, so that you don't have to go and look those videos up on the Exam 1 sheet. They're all right here so that you don't have to leave this week's assignment list to watch those videos. Okay. You have to use Microsoft Word because that's the only program I can open and respond in. Okay. And when you're finished, you're going to submit the exam by putting it into the completed exam 2 Dropbox on Canvas. It says folder, but it's actually a Dropbox. Okay, here are the readings you should choose from, and they're the ones that have been assigned since Medea. Okay. Mathello. I've got Othello on the mind today. Matthew and Luke from the New Testament, the Inferno, Canterbury Tales, and Othello. And here are the questions that you can respond to. First, compare and contrast the wife of Bath with Desdemona. How might Desdemona have reacted to the situations in Othello if she'd had the wife of Bath's personality, view of life, and belief systems? Now, I'm going to go over the rest of this question here, but please notice that this information is included at the end of every question. I'm not going to repeat it 8 times because I know you can read, but I'm going to go over it once because I want to make sure you know that it's important. You have to cite specific passages from the works through quotes, summaries, and or paraphrases to support your ideas, as well as information presented in the presentations, in other words, in the videos. Make sure to use MLA documentation for all summaries and paraphrases as well as direct quotes. Now, all of that information is true regardless of which question you choose to respond to. And now that I've said that, we won't go over it again, okay? Okay, so let's talk about this question in particular. Now, Desdemona and the wife of Bath actually face some very similar situations. And they're very, very, very different women. Let's talk about a couple of the things that, a couple of the situations they face that are similar. And then you can kind of take it from there in determining how they react differently. For one thing, they both get hit by husbands. Okay? Desdemona is struck by Othello in, I think it's Act 4. It's after the emissary arrives from Venice with Lodovico and some other people, okay? And he slaps Desdemona. Now, Janken hits the wife of Bath. But the wife of Bath reacts to how to Jenkins hitting her much, much differently than how Desdemona reacts to Othello's hitting her. So that's one small thing that you can look at. But the bigger picture, of course, is that the wife of Bath tells us in her prologue how she reacts when her husbands accuse her of being unfaithful. And of course, we see how Desdemona reacts when she finds out that Othello thinks she's been unfaithful. They don't react the same ways. Okay? So that should give you an idea of how to approach this question. Oh, one thing I do want to caution you about. We're talking about the wife of Bath as she talks about herself in her prologue. One thing that I've noticed on discussion boards is that students sometimes get confused about the wife of Bath's tale and the partner's tale in the Canterbury Tales. The wife of Bath and the partner are not in those stories. The partner doesn't react with the three revelers who go looking for death. And the old woman in the wife of Bath's tale is not the wife of Bath. Those are just stories those people are telling the other pilgrims. They're not in those stories. I mean, to give you a modern example, if I told you a story about a beautiful 20-year-old woman, that wouldn't make me a beautiful 20-year-old woman. Believe me, if it would, I'd tell you that story right away because I'd love to be a beautiful 20-year-old woman, okay? The wife of Bath and the partner are not characters in the tales they tell. Those are just stories they're telling. The wife of Bath and to a fairly large degree the partner, we really find out about them in the prologues. Now, the partner's tale is a little bit different because at the end of the tale, he does step outside of telling a story and returns to the way that he acts when he preaches to the various parishioners in the towns that he travels to. And that's when he tries to sell the relics to the pilgrims. Yeah, that's the partner. That's not another character, that's the partner. But he stopped telling his tale by then. His tale ends when the revelers are all dead. Okay? So make sure that you know the difference between the wife of Bath and the partner and the characters in the stories they tell, because they're not in the stories. Okay? I wanted to let you know that from the outset because that could become an issue in a number of the questions that we're going to be looking at. Okay? Okay, let's move on to the second question. The idea of seams and appearances play significant roles in both the Canterbury Tales and Othello. Discuss how these concepts are used and affect the two works. And then there's the whole thing we've already gone over about specific passages and citations and stuff. Okay, now, again, focus on in the Canterbury Tales, use only the wife of Bath and the partner, not the characters in the stories they tell. And then, of course, in Othello, you can use all of the characters. Okay. Um, the discussion boards for the Canterbury Tales and Othello offer you an opportunity to talk about how the wife of Bath and the partner are not the people that they pretend to be in the wife of Bath's case, her hometown of Bath, and in the partner's case, the towns that he visits to preach to and sell his relics and make his money. Okay? We know from the prologues that they're not actually who they pretend to be. Um, and we definitely know that how Othello sees Desdemona is not how she is. And how Desdemona sees Othello is not entirely how he is. And how anyone sees Iago is not at all how he is. Okay? That's what we mean here about the difference between appearances and actuality. So pick the wife of Bath or the partner and one of the main characters from Othello and talk about how they aren't the way that other characters see them, or they aren't the way that they act when they're around people in their hometown or parishioners they're preaching to. If that doesn't make complete sense to you and you have any questions, let me know. Let's move on to question 3. The action of the Canterbury Tales and Othello occurs due to travel. Okay? Now, again, we're talking about in terms of action. The action in the Canterbury Tales is that the wife of Bath and the partner tell the other pilgrims what their personalities are like in the prologues, and then they tell the stories. So the action is actually as much what the wife of Bath and the partner say about themselves in their prologues as it is in the action of the stories that they tell. Okay? So talk about how that the wife of Bath and the partner couldn't have been as honest about themselves if they weren't going on this pilgrimage with people that they don't normally interact with and would never see again. And then, of course, in Othello, there's a video about how that the action of Othello couldn't occur in the way it does if those people had stayed in Venice. And, the video discusses why and so forth, and we also discuss it on the discussion boards. So that's basically an approach that you can use for this. Don't work with the travel that takes place, like, for example, the knight in the story that the wife of Bath tells has to travel to try to find the answer to the question that Guinevere puts to him about what women want. That's not what I'm talking about here. And similarly, the 3 revelers in the partner's tale travel to find death. That's not what I'm talking about either. Okay? I'm talking about the fact that the wife of Bath and the partner are on a pilgrimage. That's the travel we're looking at. Okay? And again, if that's not clear, if you have any questions, email me and let me know. And let me know if there's a different approach you'd like to take so I can make sure that, it's cool as far as the assignment goes. And it could well be. Okay. Both the partner and Iago use manipulation extensively. And we talk about that in the videos, and there's discussions of it on the discussion board. How do these two characters use manipulation? And which one, in your opinion, is better at it? Now, you know from the videos that I think Iago is better at it, but I'm not necessarily right. That's just an opinion, okay? If you think the partner is better at it, that's cool too. But do tell me what you think makes that character better at manipulation, okay? Most of your paper should be focused on how the characters use manipulation, and then you can add at the end some thoughts on which one you think is better. Okay? Both the Canterbury Tales and Othello, this is question 5, of course, both the Canterbury Tales and Othello deal in a number of areas with the nature of marriage. Discuss what each work says about marriage. Now, obviously, the wife of Bath, as we talked about in one of the videos, yeah, she's a cloth maker, and she's a highly respected one and a very successful one. That's where she gets at least some of her money, although, yeah, she does inherit it because she marries a lot of old men, right? But her main avocation, what she thinks of herself is as a wife. And she's married 5 times. So, you know, obviously in her prologue, she focuses on marriage. Now, for that matter, in this case, her tale does comment on marriage too. Because the answer to what women want that the knight finally finds is that women want to be the dominant one in a marriage situation. Okay? So in this case, yeah, the wife of Bath's tale as well as her prologue comment on the nature of marriage. Okay? And then, of course, Desdemona and Othello's marriage is, well, kind of like the point of parts of Othello, right? So there's a lot of comments about marriage and what marriage is like just by observing the interaction between Othello and Desdemona. And we did have discussion boards on marriage for each of these works, so you can look at what you've said in the discussion boards too. But there's a lot about marriage in these 2 works. So definitely that's a question that you might want to consider. Okay, question 6 is a little different because we didn't actually have a discussion board for this. What I want you to do is I want you to pick a character from either the Canterbury Tales or Othello. And yeah, in this case, you can pick characters from the tales too. You don't have to work with just the wife of Bath or just the partner. Because, you know, the 3 revelers would be in a circle of hell, and you might want to put the knight in a circle of hell because he does rape someone after all. So that's fine. That would work for this. Pick a couple of characters, 2, maybe 3. Don't work with all of them. And decide which circle of hell in the inferno that they should be in. And then, you know, talk about the sin that's punished in that circle of hell and the type of punishment that they would endure, and then explain why those characters belong in that circle of hell. This is similar to what we did on the discussion board when we placed celebrities in Circles of Hell. But, obviously we couldn't do that with the characters from the Canterbury Tales and Othello because we hadn't read the Canterbury Tales and Othello when we read the Inferno, right? So that would have been a little bit impossible. Um, it's the same idea as what we did with the celebrities on the Inferno discussion boards, but instead of using celebrities, use characters from the Canterbury Tales and Othello. Okay? And finally, both the Canterbury Tales and Othello deal with concepts of sexuality and fidelity. And what do they say about sexuality and fidelity? Okay. Um, and in this case, again, sexuality and infidelity are discussed to some degree in the stories that the wife of Bath tells, particularly the wife of Bath tells, um, as well as in her prologue where she talks about herself. So you can use the, the situations and the characters from the stories that the pilgrims tell in this case, as well as using information about the wife of Bath and the pardoner himself. And then, of course, in Othello, the fact that Iago makes up this entire story about Desdemona having an affair with Cassio and Othello's reactions to infidelity, well, that's pretty much the whole play. So there's obviously a lot that you can say about sexuality and fidelity and infidelity based on situations in Othello. So that shouldn't be too hard to do. And then last but not least is the opportunity to come up with a topic you'd like to write with, you know, that you'd like to write on, rather, yourself. You know, I come up with some ideas that occur to me, but you guys see things in these works that I don't, and that's cool. That's really cool. So if something else about these works occurs to you that you'd like to write on, as long as you can write on at least two works, let me know. Email me what you'd like to write on so that I can make sure that it's appropriate, and I can't remember a time I've ever turned down a suggestion. And once you get that cleared, then yeah, by all means, go ahead and write on it. I'm really interested in seeing what you guys have to say about these works. Yeah, I enjoy the stuff from the first unit, but my background really is in British literature as far as my literary background goes. So obviously, the Canterbury Tales and Shakespeare um, are two of my favorite works. I really wish we had time to read more of the Canterbury Tales because I got to tell you, they're really funny. Most of them are just hilarious. Chaucer is such a funny writer and he uses irony so well. And Othello, well, obviously Othello is my favorite Shakespearean tragedy. I mean, I make Norton put together a special bundle of books for me specifically so I can teach Othello. So obviously, I really love that play. So, yeah, you know, um, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you have to say about the works because I like the work so well myself. Um, and yeah, I have a lot of background and experience on a personal level with the Gospels in the Bible, and I have a lot of attachment, shall we say, uh, to them. So, I'm interested in anything you might have to say about them too. So, yeah, if you see something that you think would make a good paper, do email me and let me know because I'm really looking forward to reading these exams. They're always good, they're always fascinating, and I usually learn a lot from them. Students are great thinkers, and one of the fun things about teaching is seeing what students think. And I can't have that kind of fun teaching a composition course because I have to look at You know, is the paper organized right? Is the thesis stated correctly? Uh, is each point developed well? Is the grammar used properly? Is the word, I mean, it takes all the pleasure out of reading the papers. That's why I don't grade that stuff in lit classes. I like to hear what students say. I like to know what you think. That's why I love the discussion board so much too, because I really, really enjoy hearing what you guys think and what you guys observe in the literature. You really bring a lot to the table in terms of this class, and I really appreciate that. Okay, and then at the bottom are, the big kind of a warning thing, okay? Make sure that you submit the completed exam to the Dropbox on Canvas, and on the exam that's posted, the actual due date for your exam is listed right here. I use this same video every semester, of course, because let's face it, it takes a long time to make these videos. Um, so I just have a generic copy of the exam in front of me, but your exam will have the actual date and time there that your exam is due. I don't accept late exams. Okay? Now, but this is really important, and it's more important for exam 2 than it even was for exam 1. The day that I download your exams, and usually that's the day or the day after they're due for exam 2, I will go through and make sure that I got an exam from everyone in that Dropbox. If I didn't get one from you, I will send you an email and I will give you exactly 24 hours to email your exam to me. And if you email the exam to me within that 24-hour time frame by a deadline that will be stated in that email, you get full credit for it. Because as far as I know, the exam might have gotten lost someplace in the technology, and that's not your fault. That's why I give you the 24 hours. But the reason I give you only 24 hours is because I'm not trying to give you more time to write the exam. In order for grades to be fair, everybody has to have about the same amount of time to write the paper. And I figure that if you check your email every 24 hours, then giving you 24 hours gives you enough time to email the exam to me, but it doesn't give you enough time really to have a lot more time to write the exam, and that keeps the grades fair. But you have to check your email every day and to make sure that I got your exam. Now, once I have downloaded the exams and checked them and emailed the people I didn't get one from, I'll email the entire class and let you know that if you haven't heard from me otherwise, I did get your exam and it opened fine in Microsoft Word. Once you get that, then you can stop checking your email every day. I mean, I'd like to think that you'd like to check your email to see what your grade was, but, that's entirely up to you. But it is important that you check your email every day from the date that the exam is due until you get an email from me either saying I didn't get your exam and you have 24 hours to send it to me, or I did get everybody's exams who didn't receive an email stating I didn't. Does that make sense? I think it does. One of the things about these exam videos is that, you know, as much as I hate the formality of the whole thing, I always write up scripts for the videos that I do so that I don't forget to say anything and that I have everything organized in a way that makes sense. It makes it all a little bit more formal than I actually am as a person, but at least I know I'm giving you the information. But I can't read a script and read the exam on the screen at the same time. So I don't write up a script for these exam videos. And that means that I'm talking on the fly, okay? Exactly as I would in a live class. But in a live class, I would ask does anybody have any questions? And you could raise your hands and let me know if I'm not making sense, which is always possible with any person. So if anything in this video doesn't make any sense to you, please, by all means, email me from an account other than Canvas at deborah.okie@csn.edu and let me know so that I can explain for you. I want to make sure that you understand what you need to do for the exam, how to approach the questions, and I want to make sure that you understand everything you need to so that you can do your very, very best work on this exam. Okay? Now, one of the things I have to tell you too is that, I can't make a whole lot of exceptions or anything along those lines about late papers because this is the end of the semester. Your exam is due during finals week and grades are due very shortly thereafter. So there's not a lot of time to allow for late work. This is like the end of the whole thing, and I don't have any leeway on the due dates much. I have to meet a deadline for turning in grades just like you guys do. So make sure that the contact address in my CSN is correct, and that if you've changed your address, you email me your new address. So that I can get in touch with you because I don't have any other way of getting in touch with you. Okay? Okay, I think that covers everything. Now, like I say in the material that introduces this video, make sure that you study this exam sheet because I didn't cover every single solitary word on it. And you're responsible for everything that's in this video and for everything that's on that exam page. So make sure that you actually study the sheet and that you know what's expected of you. And if you don't, or if you have any questions at all, email me from an account other than Canvas at deborah.okie@csn.edu. Thanks a lot for listening to this presentation. I hope it helped you prepare for your exam.